And we are rolling. What is going on with everybody? It is your boy Eric, aka Young God, coming to you live in the Green Dungeon, giving it to you real raw rugged. And I got somebody on the other line. I'm gonna let him introduce himself, man. Who do we have here today?
My name is Otto Wallin. I fought Fury last year. I'm 20 and 1 as a pro, and looking forward to get back in the ring soon.
Hey, man, how you doing today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Doing pretty good, man. Well, just want to say you're definitely the first boxer that I'm interviewing, so shout out to that. That's pretty interesting. And
Thank
I would love to just talk about how I first discovered you, man. It was the Tyson Fury fight, and it was interesting because I'm a like a combat. I'm just a sports fan in general,
you.
and
Yeah,
when I'm not rooting for somebody, I find myself always rooting for the underdog. So when they announced the fight, seeing everybody was like, "Oh, Tyson Fury's gonna whoop this guy's ass. This guy's gonna get destroyed." And I was like, "You
yeah,
don't know. You never know. Who knows?" So when the fight starts, and you actually, give him competition, I'm not gonna lie. I found myself rooting for you, man. I was like, please. I was like, finish him, finish him.
yeah.
And it was just a crazy, crazy fight. So I just wanted to let you know after that fight, I became a fan. So I'm definitely a fan of you after that fight. Definitely tapped in or whatever you got coming in next. So before we get to the interview, just want to let you know I'm a fan first and appreciate what you do, man.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, like you said, you never know. I'm also always rooting for the underdogs, and you can never underestimate anybody, especially in boxing, in heavyweight boxing. Anything can happen. So I think that's a good lesson for everybody in life in general. Like, don't judge people and don't underestimate people.
Yeah, never underestimate people. Also big fan of beards. You had a beard going on. I was like, hey, I gotta root for the beard, man. You gotta root
Okay.
for the beard. I got the struggle beard going on. I cannot seem to
Okay.
connect it, man. What do you put? Do you put anything in your beard to make it grow?
Uh, no, not really. I mean, I try to put lotion on my face and maybe I put some on my beard too. Sometimes I use some oil, but I mean, I wanted to creep up a little bit more on my right here, but I think it's coming along okay.
Would you get like the big, like long, like kind of just grizzly
I
man
will do
beard?
that.
Huh?
I mean, I don't know if I would do that. Maybe. I mean, I had a pretty long beard, but I think I like to keep it around what I got right now.
Now I know like a lot of people they go in fights having try to physically intimidate a person, but I always think it's interesting when somebody psychologically tries to like go in playing mind games. Is that anything that you try to do, have ever done before?
That I try to do.
Yeah, like do you ever try to get in the person's brain before the fight even starts?
Yeah, yeah. I think that as a boxer, like each time I see another heavyweight, I'm always aware of that guy and what I'm doing because I know maybe someday we're gonna fight. So it's pretty interesting. Like I learned in the amateurs. I remember like when I first started boxing, I watched a lot of documentaries and like fights and stuff. And people always try to be intimidating and like at fights too, like try to intimidate the other guy. But then when I started traveling as an amateur, I'm from Sweden, so I would be around like some Russians and stuff, and those guys were really good, but they were always so relaxed and like they didn't care about anything. So I found that interesting, and that was that was very interesting. Like I took to that somehow. Like they were so like calm, relaxed. They didn't care too much about the other guys. They just went in there and won the fights anyways. So I feel like my style is more towards what they were doing, kind of like I don't care too much about my opponent, and I think that can be intimidating in another way,
Yeah.
because I think, for example, when I fought Fury, I felt I felt that he had a hard time like figuring me out because I didn't pay too much attention to him. A lot of these other guys, they try to be tough guys, or the guy he fought before me, he was like trying to be his friend and stuff. But we just went in there like each time I would see him, didn't care too much about him, didn't look up to him or whatever, didn't show him too much respect in any sense. And I showed that in the fight too.
I think it's crazy something about Russians. They're just like I think they're scary because they're just so cold. Like you look at them, and they're just like even when you're looking at Rocky, like the Russians just barefaced, stone, not paying them any attention. But when they get in the ring or they get in the octagon, it's all
Yeah,
business. Like that's when the animal comes out, you know.
yeah,
So
true,
I
true.
feel like that's definitely like a interesting way to play it instead of being like the overly I'm going to get in your mind and play mind games. Just you're just
Yeah,
going to be cold and you're not going to figure anything out.
yeah,
Um,
because if you try to go into it too much, I think it would take more energy out of you try to affect the other guy than what it will help.
Now that being your biggest fight, did you because when you like you're saying you put too much energy trying to play too many mind games, do you think you did anything leading up to the fight where you like because your biggest fight you kind of over prepared or you kind of overdid something where you're like I probably shouldn't did that leading up to the fight because maybe I didn't, or do you think you prepared perfectly and everything went good?
I mean, you know what? I don't think so. Nothing that I can really point out that I did too much or too little. No, I got a good team around me. My trainer, Joey Gamache, has been a world champion before, so he's been at that big stage. And I just always watched a lot of boxing. I watched the big fights, so I always dreamt of like coming to that point. And then, like I said, I have a good team around me that keep me on track. And there was a lot of media requests, for example, like tons of media requests all the time, but they will filter out which ones I should do and shouldn't do, not to not to do too much. 'Cause I know some people they do too much,
Yeah.
like leading up to a fight. So my team did good on that, and then training, we always very serious for each fight. So it's pretty much same what we always do. So it's nothing really I can say that I didn't handle. And also I got a good psychologist that I've been working with since 2012. I think he's back in Sweden, and he's also prepared me a lot. So I think that plays a big part.
It's interesting. I'm in college right now for psychology, so it's interesting that you have a
Okay.
psychologist. Like, what made you do
Yeah.
that?
Um, I actually I started with him in 2012 as when I was an amateur. It was actually a guy I worked with a little bit. He suggested it for no particular reason, just that a lot of athletes use a psychologist. And we had this guy that he knew, and he's real experienced, and he's worked with a lot of athletes. So we have started working, and he's helped me a lot. I didn't have any real problems, but still, he's helped me a lot with fighting and how to think and everything.
Now, me like I guess just doing psychology, I've learned that like you could learn something that's not sports related, but in that psychology realm, they could teach you like you should do this in life, and you can actually like use that life skill and put it inside of your training or your boxing or just to help you prepare or be mentally tough or whatnot. Is there something that you learned that wasn't specifically relating to boxing, but it was like a life lesson that you can put into boxing?
I think one of the big lessons he had for me that he taught me, always like believe in myself and always be myself, not trying to be anybody else. Just be yourself at all times. And I think one time he had me write that down and keep a note like I'm always I'm always myself because that's who I am or something like that. But I think that's a good lesson, and that kind of tuned into what we were talking about earlier about trying to intimidate people and stuff. I'm not that type of person. I'm a cool guy and normal guy. So just trying to be myself, and that doesn't take a lot of energy. Just to be yourself.
No, I can appreciate that. I think I've realized that just like looking at your Instagram, looking at your interviews, you seem like a person at yourself. You seem like you got your own thing going on. You got your own fashion. I seen you had the brown turtleneck. The brown turtle that was hard. The brown
Okay, sounds
turtleneck was
good.
hard, man. I don't know if you're a turtleneck guy, but I'm not gonna lie. You need to rock more turtlenecks, man. That
Yeah, I
looked
like
good.
turtlenecks. Yeah,
That
but
looked
it's too
good,
hot
man.
right now. I'm in New York. It's hot, so
It
we
is
can't
hard.
do it right now. But when the winter comes, the turtleneck comes out.
And I'm not gonna lie. You gotta get the turtleneck. You gotta get a chain. The turtleneck and chain is gonna be
Yeah,
a deadly combo. It's gonna
yeah,
be a
that's
deadly
true.
combo.
That's true. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I don't have a chain right now, but I should get one.
Definitely gotta get one. What's the weather like in Sweden right now?
Sweden is okay. It's okay. They had really good weather for like a couple of weeks, but usually that happens and then like it's cooler. But it's all right, I think.
So
New
Sweden.
York,
No, my fault. What
well,
were you about to say?
New York, it's not as hot as New York, but they had pretty good weather for like a couple of weeks.
So Sweden is more of like a colder place rather than hot, like around here.
Yeah, Yeah,
So how was that like adjusting? Because I would imagine like because you trained in Sweden before, right?
yeah,
So training in Sweden, where it's much more colder weather, I guess where you're much more used to compared to training in New York, where it's hot. Does that have any type of like dealings with you, or is that something you don't really care
yeah,
about?
yeah. I remember I've been in New York for 3 years now, but when I first came, like I was shocked how hot it was. I didn't expect that because like the gym we're training at Mendes, it's in a basement and it can be really really hot. Like if it's hot outside, it's really hot down there.
Mm.
'Cause they don't have AC. You know, it's a Mexican gym, so they like it hot. And yeah, I remember like sweating almost like 24/7 when I first got it.
That's crazy because I'm in Florida, so that's much more southern. It's way more hotter down here. So the fact that you think it's hot in New York, you probably have a heat stroke if you came down here to train because it is it
Yeah.
is what is it right now? I think it's like 100 degrees outside in Florida right now
Oh
where I'm
shit.
at. So
Yeah.
what's the weather out? Is it hot right now in New York?
Yeah. It's about. I'm not great with Fahrenheit, but maybe 80, something like that.
Okay. Yeah, it's crazy. And that's crazy. It's so much difference. I didn't realize like you work off Celsius in probably Sweden, right?
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
and you probably work off meters over there because we're the only place that have like feet and like
Yeah. Yeah.
it's crazy. Like
Yeah.
how is that adjusting to just another type of just culture in America? Like, because I'm pretty sure you're still adapting.
Yeah. I mean, it hasn't been too hard. I got when I first came here, I had my trainer here. That we were training in Denmark before for 4 years. Then he moved back, so I moved with him. So when I first got to New York, he had everything set up for me, like a room and stuff. So it was a little hard in the beginning, like the commute and stuff. But now I got a better place to stay. I got my own place, so it's really nice. And the commute is not very long, so life is much better for me right now. But then like meters and stuff, it's still hard, but try to keep up with it. I know I'm 6'5.5", so I know that at least. I'm trying to work with it more.
That's crazy. So like even when they're measuring height in like Sweden, it's not like 6 feet. What
No,
would you be in like Sweden? Like what would you measure at?
197. 197.
197. That's crazy. And then is it do they do pounds in Sweden or is it kilos?
Kilos.
It's kilos. So you're in kilos you would be like something completely
One,
different.
110,
110.
110, like 245 maybe.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah, man. Like I said, I feel like you're such an interesting person because something that you said earlier with with Tyson about him not being able to figure you out. I watched like after that fight, I went to go back and look at like a lot of your highlights and a lot of your older fights just to see what type of fighter you were. And I watched a lot of your fights. I can't even figure you out right now because you're so interesting. Because it's not like you have I don't know. I would imagine for a fighter to train for you, definitely a fighter that like I'm pretty sure you wasn't on his radar a year ago. So it was like this is just a new fight I gotta study for him right now. So for a fighter just trying to train for you off of a naked eye, I would imagine it's a little difficult to train for you. I don't know if you agree with that, but you just have like an interesting style where I can't pinpoint like what's your weakness, what's your strengths. It's very interesting. Like I feel like you have a just very style that's unique to you. I don't know if you would agree with that or not, but how you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm a guy that I had a solid background, like a good schooling, good technique. I got good footwork. I'm pretty fast. Uh, I think I got decent skills, so I think that I'm a pretty all-round guy. Yeah, so pretty all-round. There's always things I can do better, of course. And a big thing that I need is experience. And the thing I got, no, the experience I got from the Fury fight was great. You know, go 12 rounds with him. So that's great experience. But I just need to keep improving. But yeah, I would say that I'm a pretty kind of all-round guy that got good, solid skills.
But that's what I think it is. I think it's usually like when you talk about like the great fighters, they have like some distinction. So like I guess Mike Tyson distinction would be his heavy hitting. Tyson Fury, his distinction would be just being awkward and kind of moving weird. Wilder's just he's a crazy wild like brawler type of thing.
Yeah,
What do you think you would have a distinction, or you think it's just the all around thing that you encompass everything?
yeah, yeah. I think so. That I'm kind of all around and yeah. I never thought of that actually. It's too much, but I would say so.
I think that's one of the things. If you think about it too much, you'll probably get in your head too much because you're like, damn, do I need a distinction now? Like that's probably something that you don't want to think about too much if you don't already have that, you know? Because I would imagine in sport, well, in sports in general, like playing sports, I know for a fact if you overthink something, like if you're playing basketball and they're like, oh, you're not passing enough, so now you're gonna be in your head like, oh, maybe I shouldn't shoot the ball, I should pass enough. So like,
Yeah.
have you ever went through that phase in your career where you were overthinking things too much?
No, I mean, I'm always trying to get better. So I think of what I do. I watch videos, watch my opponents to see what I need to do and stuff. But sometimes it can be like an Achilles heel also. Let's say, for example, with Wilder, like he has crazy power, but sometimes he's gonna need more than power. And he's been working for him for like what is it, 40 something fights.
Yeah.
He's been knocking everybody out. But then he fought Fury, and he could handle it. He could do other stuff to Wilder that he wasn't prepared for. So sometimes, if you focus too much on one thing, like if you have crazy power, you might need to add other stuff too. So I think that's for me probably. I think I can adapt to any style pretty good.
No, I think that's very important to be adapting or adaptive and, just having kind of all around skill and whatnot. And I think one thing I noticed in that Tyson Fury fight is that you really wanted to win. Like, you were going, like, when you seen that cut, man, you was head hunting. When you seen the cut, you was just, I'm finna knock this man head off. Even a little swipe to the thing. Everybody's like, oh, he should have did that. Yeah, I guess you probably should have did that. But hey, you were trying to win. I feel it, man. Like, you were trying to win. And I feel like even, like, going to the lengths of doing the little swipe thing, that was just showing like, yo, this if you beat him, your life is different forever. Like you're
Yeah,
in a different stratosphere. You're on late night with Jimmy Kimmel after that. You're out of here. And I've
true.
seen it in your eyes like I'm about to be out of here when I win or if I win this fight. So during those moments when you seen that cut in your head, was that going through like, yo, this is finna change my life? Were you thinking about that at that moment or was that not in your head
Yeah,
at that point?
yeah. I mean, what I was thinking, but like, oh shit, one more punch and that could be it. Like one more punch, he's gonna hit him one more time, kind of. But also, I think for me was, I knew that when I was gonna fight Fury that I can't go in and show him any respect.
Mm.
So you see when that cut happens, and in the fight that I'm not showing him any respect at all. I think a lot of these other guys they show him too much respect. I didn't want to do that.
You see that all the time in sports. I see like I'm a big football guy. So let's say if a huge name football player is going against a rookie, rookie probably admired this guy since he was a kid. So now it's like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm finna go against insert Hall of Fame football player. Like, what do I do? But going into it like that, you're going in admiring instead of trying to kill almost. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to kill the person you admire. You're like, oh, I'm going against. You're kind of starstruck or whatnot. So you basically you wasn't trying to get starstruck in front of him because you knew you would
No.
lose that way.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you can't do that. I mean, it's a sport. I mean, I like Fury. I'm a fan of his. I mean, I've been watching his fights for years. But when I fight him, it's different. Like it's me or him. So, you know, I felt like it was a new time coming, and I wanted to beat him. Of course.
How is it going against that awkward herky jerky style? Because he's one of those people. It's like you really can't figure out what he's gonna do next. Like, how is it going against that
Yeah.
style? Because that looks very difficult to fight.
Yeah, but we had a good game plan, I think, and that helped me a lot. And he's awkward, of course. He's awkward, big guy. He uses his size well, but I felt like we had a good game plan, so he wasn't able to be very awkward with me. And even like towards the second half of the fight, he started fighting me more on the inside and try to push me back. So we had to adapt in the fight, and he did that pretty good, of course. Because he started being aggressive, and I think too with the cut that he felt like probably needs to knock me out, unless they might stop it. So probably felt that hey, I've got to take it to him and try to knock him out.
After that cut, did the game plan change, or was it the same game plan?
For me,
Yeah, for you.
yeah, it was the same game plan, but I got off of it a little bit because it's hard to not focus on the cut. That's gonna be a good experience for me too to always stick to the game plan. I got off of it a little bit, but then I think that he changed his game plan as the fight progressed and the doctor were looking at the cut, then right after he just came at me and like pretty much the last six rounds he was being very aggressive.
Yeah, that was a really good fight, man. I think if you're just looking at the scorecards did not tell the fight. The scorecards looked like he just washed you the entire fight, which obviously didn't
Yeah,
happen. It was a much competitive. It was way more competitive than the scorecard scene.
yeah.
Is that something that ever discouraged you looking at the scorecards? Like, wow, like it wasn't that bad.
Uh, I don't really care too much about that because I know boxing and I know that Fury is the champion, so you really gotta like steal the belt from him
Yeah.
in a way that you really gotta kind of take him out to get a decision. But I think one judge had it like 8 rounds to 4. I felt, I mean, I felt that they should have stopped the fight because of the cut, but they didn't stop the fight, and I give him the decision, maybe like 7-5 or something like that.
Do you think the fight wasn't stopped because he is champ?
That's part of it. Yeah, I think it would have been stopped if it happened to me. It would have been stopped. But that's kind of how boxing is. He was the big draw, everything. So they would be more reluctant to stop a guy like that.
Some have always wondered with boxing because I feel like out of all sports, including MMA, boxing has the most politics. Like boxing is the one sport where people still think fights are fixed. You know, like when you watch NBA, NHL, soccer. Well, I don't know about soccer, but for most of the major sports, you don't really hear about fixing too much. But in
Yeah.
boxing, you always hear about that or the politics with the champ. Like, how annoying is that to you, or does that annoy you at all? Being in the sport where there are so many politics and fixing involved.
Yeah, sometimes it is, but it hasn't affected me much. I mean, maybe it purified a little bit, but still, he still kept fighting and he
Yeah.
didn't want to quit. So I don't think too much about that. I think most fights have good decisions. There's always some exceptions, but it's a sport when people can see it different. It's not like you score a goal and then you up 1-0. So it's a little different with boxing because it's how everybody sees it and from which angle they see it. So of course, there's some politics in boxing, and I wish it wasn't. And I hope it will get better and better. But I think it's getting better, to be honest.
We'll kind of fast forward, not to harp too much on the past. Today, well, not today, but more recently, I seen that you contracted coronavirus, and I'm just curious. Do you think you know how you contracted that, or how did that went about?
I don't know. I have no idea. I had my mom visiting me here in New York. She was here for like 2 weeks, and then when she got back, she started having symptoms, and I had it. I also started having it symptoms, but I don't know where I got it from. Maybe in the gym, there was a lot of people that got sick in the gym. We lost a couple people from the gym, like the owner and another guy passed away from the virus, so that was very sad.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, but for me it was very light. I just had like a light fever, a little sore throat, and I was like sneezing and coughing a little bit, but it wasn't bad at all for me. But then my mom, she had like a high fever and stuff, and her boyfriend also got it from her when she got back to Sweden. And they had like a bad flu, but they recovered, so I'm happy about that, of course.
I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad. That's the scariest part, man. Like, I feel like if it was just me, I'd be cool. But now I have to like get in contact with my mother. That's the last person you want to infect, is because
Yeah,
the
yeah,
older people, the people that's more susceptible to die. You know, that's
yeah,
crazy. So, and in Florida, it is crazy. Like, I think today we just got 10,000 new cases because nobody down here is taking it serious at all. I would
yeah,
imagine New York is taking it way more serious than Florida. How are they taking it up there? Do you see people with masks on all the time?
yeah. Sure, yeah. Everybody has masks, and there's a lot of social distancing. I mean, it's been a long time now, so people want to get out more, and people are getting out more. But still, like the rate of infection hasn't gone up, so that's very interesting. There's been a lot of protests too, but most of the protesters have masks, so I think probably the masks are working. That's what it's looking like. So that the infection rate hasn't gone up, so that's positive.
And people are insane in Florida, man. I had a mask on, and people just look at you like, "Why do you have a mask on?" They look like, "Are you sick? Like, get out of here!" Like, they laugh at you have a mask on. So it is crazy. I wish more
Yeah,
people.
that's crazy because you never know. I mean, you can have the virus and spread it without you knowing. So I mean, if the masks help, then why not use it? But I think, to be honest, I mean, there's there's a lack of leadership in the whole country. I think Governor Cuomo here, he do a good job. He's always wearing a mask and tell everybody to wear a mask. Where some places there's not. So
Oh yeah, I mean down in Florida, we didn't lock down until the like a day or two after spring break. So after all the kids are outside of school,
yeah,
so much money is coming in Florida during the spring break. So after the day or two when they weren't getting their money, it's like all right, let's lock it down. So yeah, they don't.
yeah,
There's really bad leadership. It's really weird. And something interesting that you brought up that I kind of want to touch on before we get into you training for your next fights or whatnot. Um, you said the protests, like people wearing masks during the protests or whatnot.
yeah.
You being from Sweden, I would imagine the population of like black people is very minimal to just like not a lot of people. So you coming down here and just seeing what like people are talking about like Black Lives Matter and people getting like, have you learned anything since you've been here in the United States about you know what people are protesting about and just how like black people are like treated in America?
Yes, I have. In Sweden, we have. I mean, we have some black people.
Hmm.
It's not like here, but still some. And we had a lot of people from the Middle East and like other European countries. So it's mixed in a lot of ways in Sweden too. And I've always been aware of the problems over here, but I feel like I get it more now when I'm actually here, and I see more. I have friends, you know, sharing things on Instagram, social media, and I see it a lot more. I see good documentaries on Netflix, and it's so sad, man. I don't understand it, and I think there's a real problem here, and I'm happy people are trying to make a change, and I think a lot of people are supporting that. But there's some people that don't want it. They don't want to change, and I don't want to talk about politics too much, but I feel like it's sad. It shouldn't be that way. I mean, everybody should be treated the same, and that's not how it is right now. I think black people, they are trying to suppress them. And you know, for example, I read online that white and black use drugs pretty much the same, but blacks are being put in jail six times more than whites. I mean, how can that be? I don't understand it. I mean, everybody should be under the same law, the same judgment, and I don't get it.
The reason I bring everything, or the reason I bring this up about everything is because I just think it's cool that you're not even from America and you come over here and you're interested in learning and you're listening and whatnot. Better than some white people that are born in America and that just still don't want to listen. Because I seen you posted something on Instagram about it. I seen somebody in the comments like, "Oh, what about white lives? We don't matter too." And it's
Yeah,
like, we're not talking about that right now. So I just want to
yeah,
say I appreciate you for not even being from this country, but still trying to sympathize with the people you know that are going through a lot in this country. So you know, just want to appreciate you for that because you know,
yeah.
as a black person, I can see you not coming from this country still learning. That shows that you care, and I appreciate that,
Yeah,
man.
I mean, I'm from a country where I feel like there's racism, some racism everywhere.
Yeah.
I don't think Sweden has zero racism, but I think it's better over there.
Mm.
And I think, especially if you do something, you get caught by the police. They won't kill you for it. You know, at the spot, there's very little people that get killed by the police. And if they have to shoot somebody, they shoot him in the leg or whatever. I just read a story the other day. There was a guy that had stabbed two people. He was still in that apartment. The police came and he went after the police with the knife and they shot him in the leg and the guy survived.
Mm.
So I mean, that's how it should be. But then, you know, take him to court and he's gonna get judged like everybody else. So whatever, if it's black, white, or whatever, it doesn't matter. So that's how it's supposed to be, and I think it's very strange that it's not over here.
Well, tidbit before we get off of this, just for people watching and just for you because you probably don't know, but I recently learned that the police in America are they're trained to shoot to kill because if they kill you, you can't sue them. You see what I'm saying? So like if they shoot you in the
Yeah,
leg, you could probably sue them for damage or
well,
whatnot. So they're trained to shoot to
that's
kill, so you can't shoot them. I
that,
mean, so you can't sue them because you're dead. So
that's interesting.
yeah,
That's interesting.
that's
But
interesting.
I mean, shoot to kill. I don't get it. I don't get it.
It's crazy, man. It's crazy.
Yeah,
Well, we're not shooting to kill, but you're boxing to hurt, you know. And I'm hyped to see you coming back, and I'm curious if you got any new fights coming up. I know you had to push a fight back because you got injured, and I hear that you're
Yeah,
training. So if you got any new fights coming up, where please talk about it. I'm interested, man.
yeah, yeah. It's not locked in yet, but we're working on a fight. Hopefully very soon, August or September.
Okay.
And it's not locked in yet, but we're working on that, and I'm working for it. I had sparring today, and I've been sparring, so everything is going well, and I'm in good shape. So it's been since September I haven't fought, so I just want to get back out there.
Think it's gonna be weird to fight in an empty arena with no fans?
No fans, yeah.
You think it's gonna feel weird at all?
Maybe, but try not to overthink it. I know I need to fight. I gotta get back in the ring with or without a crowd. I guess like I said before, I need experience, so I gotta take the fights that's available. But I don't know. It will be a little more. It's always more exciting if there's a good crowd, but it's gonna be on TV, so I know a lot of people will be rooting on TV. So think about that.
Well, hey man, I don't want to keep you for too long. Just want to say, like I said, you're the first boxer I've interviewed. Super good interview. If you got anything else to say for the people out there listening, let it be known.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, man. And you find me on social media. It's my name, Otto Wallin. And yeah, that's it. I thank everybody for the support. I get a lot of support from everywhere, from the US, England, Australia, Sweden, all over. So I'm very happy about that. And hopefully my next fight put on a good performance.
For everybody watching, I just gave him a follow, so go follow the man on Instagram, man. Just gave him a follow. So
Thank
until
you.
next time, I say what I mean what I say. Haters are gonna hate, players are gonna play. You guys, holler at your boy.